You have spent years trying to find yourself, reading the books, taking the personality tests, journaling your way towards some version of you that finally feels real. Who am I, really? What is my purpose? These questions have followed you for years, and every time you think you are getting close, every time the answer seems within reach, it slips away, like trying to grab your own shadow. You are not alone in this search. Around the world, millions are spending more than ever trying to discover who they really are. An entire industry has been built on that desperation. The global self-improvement market is projected to reach $67 billion by 2030. $67 billion flowing into the promise that you, as you are right now, are not enough. Books, courses, weekend retreats, personality assessments, coaching programs, morning routines, evening routines, gratitude journals, vision boards, manifestation guides, all promising the same thing, that somewhere beneath your confusion and doubt, there is a perfect, fully realized version of you just waiting to be unlocked. If you could only find the right key, the right teacher, the right practice. The philosopher Alan Watts understood this trap better than most. He said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You cannot do it. The eye cannot see itself. The knife cannot cut itself, and you cannot step outside of yourself to find yourself. It is an impossible task disguised as a noble one. And yet we keep searching. We keep believing that the next book, the next course, the next retreat will be the one that finally cracks the code. Because the promise is so seductive. A truer, deeper, more authentic version of you just out of reach. But what if the greatest thinkers in human history already understood something about this search that we have completely and utterly forgotten? A comprehensive review found that less than 20% of self-help books are actually grounded in scientific evidence. Less than 1 in 5. The rest are built on intuition, anecdote, and stories designed to make you feel like transformation is just one more purchase away. 2,500 years ago, in the forests of ancient India, a monk sat beneath a Bodhi tree and arrived at a radical conclusion, one that would challenge the very foundation of everything the modern self-help world takes for granted. His name was Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, and his insight would change the course of human understanding. The Buddha called it anatta, the doctrine of no self. Not that you do not exist, not that your experience is an illusion, but that the fixed, permanent, unchanging self you have been desperately searching for was never real to begin with. This teaching traveled through centuries, from Nagarjuna's philosophy of emptiness, to Bodhidharma bringing Zen to China, to Alan Watts carrying it west, to modern neuroscience finally measuring what monks always knew. Think about what that really means. The self you have been trying to find is not a thing hiding somewhere beneath your habits and fears and childhood wounds. According to 25 centuries of contemplative wisdom and now modern brain science, it was never a fixed thing to begin with. You are not a noun waiting to be defined. You are a verb, a process constantly unfolding. Researchers at Yale University discovered that the brain contains something called the default mode network, a system that activates whenever you are not focused on the outside world. And what does this network do? It builds the ongoing narrative of who you think you are. It manufactures your sense of identity. Your identity is not something you discover. It is something your brain constructs, moment by moment, thought by thought. In other words, the story of you is just that. A story, a narrative woven together by neurons, memories, and predictions about the future, not a permanent truth, not a destination, not something waiting to be found, just a pattern your brain keeps running, day after day, year after year, until you start to believe it is who you really are. And here is what makes this deeply personal. The same default mode network that constructs your identity is also the region most overactive in people struggling with depression and anxiety. The voice that keeps asking, "Who am I?" The voice searching for answers is the same voice that whispers you are not enough. But here is where it gets interesting. Here is the part that changes everything. Those monks, the ones who sat in forests and caves and mountain temples for decades, They were not just philosophizing. They were not building abstract theories. They were practicing something radical, something that modern science can now see, measure, and confirm. Across the world, from the Zen monasteries of Japan, to the meditation caves of Tibet, to the forest temples of Thailand, monks have practiced the same ancient discipline for thousands of years. Not the discipline of finding themselves, the discipline of letting go of the self entirely. They understood something that we are only now beginning to see, that the less you cling to who you think you are, the more present you actually become. The less you narrate your life, the more deeply you experience it, not as a story being told about you, but as a living, breathing moment unfolding right now. Research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences confirmed that experienced meditators show significantly reduced activity in the default mode network, the very system that constructs your self-narrative. When they sit in silence, the machine that tells them who they are goes quiet. And what happens when the story of you goes silent? You do not disappear. You do not become empty or lost. Something far more interesting happens. You become more aware, more present, more deeply connected to everything around you than the story ever allowed you to be. The colors sharpen, the sounds deepen. Without the noise of self, you finally hear the world as it actually is. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh described this beautifully. He said, "True self is non-self. The awareness that the self is made only of non-self elements. There is no separation between self and other. Everything in this universe is interconnected." Sit with those words for a moment. True self is non-self. It sounds like a contradiction, like a riddle with no answer, but sit with it, because it is pointing to something real, the deepest freedom you will ever know, the realization that the boundary between you and the world is not solid. You are not separate from everything around you. You are the world, becoming aware of itself. As the spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle once wrote, "The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the thinker. You are not the voice in your head. You are the silence that hears it." So what does this mean for your life, right now, today? It means you can put down the search. You can stop comparing who you are to who you think you should be. You can stop waiting to arrive at some future version of yourself before letting yourself feel whole. Because you were never broken. You were never lost. You were never missing a piece that some book or retreat could provide. The person you have been searching for has been here all along. And you are not alone in this realization. More than 35 million Americans now practice meditation regularly, a number that has tripled in less than a decade. Millions of people choosing presence over productivity, stillness over striving, being over becoming. So the next time you catch yourself asking, "Who am I, really?" try something radical. Try sitting still. Try breathing. Try letting the question dissolve without forcing an answer, because maybe the deepest truth about who you are is not something you find. It is not something you read in a book or discover on a retreat. It is what remains when you finally stop looking. You were never lost. You just forgot how to be still